All right, it's been a while since we had a From the Baseline podcast. We had to do it a little bit of a different way off of Zoom. We're actually all in the same room right now. So JK, KP hadn't been on with us yet. So what up, fellas?
Happy to be here, man.
How we
Thank
doing,
you.
man?
Yeah. So in the hotel here, we were going to jump on a Zoom and get on different rooms, but the internet's a little slow. So we're just recording this on the computer. Hopefully the sound is all right and the elevator music in the background isn't too overwhelming. No, quick catch up. We want to talk about just places that we've been recently, games that we've been seeing, and then why we are here in negative 10 degrees in Minnesota and still certifiably sane. So, KP, you guys, you've been bouncing around. We've all been bouncing around a little bit. You came off seeing events and then also running events.
Yeah.
So let's just talk about where you've been and kind of highlight on some of the things that stood out to you.
Absolutely. Let's start off kind of with my middle school stuff. We've had 2 good sessions, and I've seen some of the top 26s, 27s, probably in the country. A couple of kids who we really want to highlight, going forward if they keep the same progression.
Yeah.
One to mention that we all know is Olivia Vicosa, who's already 6'4" and pretty dominant. She's done a great job. And then, of course, we always got to talk about Takeover and what they've done with their middle school program, because I remember when they weren't that good, but they are probably the standard now with middle school basketball from a production standpoint, or from the players that they're getting kind of the best kids in that DMV area. So it's good to see some of these kids early, because as we all know, we want to track them and make sure that their trajectory is going the right way. So that's been really, really good. And aside from that, I went to Vegas and me being an East Coast guy, it's good for me to go out there and kind of see some of those West Coast kids.
A Rose Classic, which, in terms of the brand, you've been involved with for a long time on the East Coast. Yeah. And so Rose Classic, getting to a couple different areas. I know the West one, had to do some schedule rearrangement,
Absolutely.
Which is no indictment of the event whatsoever. It's the way things have gone this year schedule-wise. But Rose Classic, and then obviously you were referring to Winter Series when you're talking about the middle school stuff.
Winter Series, just it's starting to become pretty dominant, especially on the East Coast. And I know we're going to grow it. We want to get to Texas, we want to get to the West Coast, we want to get to the Midwest, and we have some opportunities, because I think us three, we kind of see these kids young, so we can kind of tell them, hey, we really want to put our eyes on you guys.
Sure,
so it's a great opportunity. But yeah, being a part of Rose Classic for so long, it kind of felt funny, because I didn't have to pick up a box. I didn't have to, do any of the scheduling. But just from a support standpoint, I'll always support those guys. And being able to have the first one in Vegas, and me never going to Vegas. I did lose $20 in the slot machine.
That's a win.
But that was a win for me, because I'm not a big gambler. But it was great. I mean, I got to see Juju. I got to see, London Jones. I got to see, Zebo's daughter. It was a great, time for me to kind of put my eyes on some of these kids from the West Coast. But then taking that red eye and coming back to New York and supporting the Rose Classic in Brooklyn for that Sunday and Monday. It was tough on the body, but it was good for the soul, because I like being in the gym.
Sure.
And I saw
you were keeping us posted the whole time, and that's always exciting. We love having the team members out and about and all that kind
Absolutely.
of good stuff. So that was excellent. And then in terms of the philosophy and early identification, in terms of just watching player development, I think
Absolutely.
it's always important to preface that with, we want to be aware, we want to support the game. There's an enthusiasm at that age that you want to promote, but we don't want people to put the cart before the horse either.
Absolutely.
And so our biggest thing is still the development and being able to help people understand there's a patience and a growth to it. So I think that's a great philosophy, and I think, kind of your tagline with Winter Series, with love in the game, is that's what you're trying to develop, because it only gets progressively harder after that talent separation. So you got to love it to work through.
Absolutely.
And just like, we try to establish with the details in which we run events and do things in our network, we want those players to have that same methodical view of their player development. So I think all of that, in terms of the things you just described, go run an event, crossing country, running from one to the other, that work ethic and that display that
love of the game.
Yeah,
It's
it
the
is.
same tagline.
And so
we love the game.
we're
so
not going to ask things of other people that we wouldn't do ourselves.
Correct.
So
Absolutely.
no, that's good stuff, and glad you're here. And then J Key, you were just in Ohio experiencing this a little preview of this weather.
Yeah.
So looked like Ohio was good. You put out a fantastic blog. Was it yesterday? These days are running together for me. I've been on a plane lots of days. Just talk to me about that experience and Classic in the City, Classic in the Country. I know the weather kept you from going there Monday, but a good weekend to be in Ohio. So talk to us about what you saw.
First of all, even backing up a little bit, but been in a bit of a whirlwind coming through December when you got She Got Game DC, then we hit TOC in Phoenix, which allowed us to hit a lot of the top kids, and then I had the post Christmas tournaments in Texas. Then we hit it Ohio, and then for me, I got to mix in a lot of college games during that time as well. So quite a few SMU, North Texas, the locals. I went to Ohio State's practice with my extra day there. So getting a feel for where schools are at and talking about recruiting and how all that's working and that kind of thing. So I'm going, after we get through this, I'll be going to California at the end of the month to start my junior high tour.
Okay.
And then we're going to hit the East Coast and see KP's event there on the East Coast.
5th and 6th of February, right?
Yep,
we're
5th and
coming
6th
up.
of February.
So getting into the younger kids, following KP's path there. And as for Classic in the City, first year event there, really good. You had from Chance Gray to Grace Van Sluten to the IMG kids to Mount Bird, a lot of the top kids from all over. So getting the Florida Connects and the regional Ohio schools there, very good matchups, very productive road trip.
And some of your social media commentary was on quality of play. A couple of the teams you mentioned, passing,
shooting,
ball movement,
yeah.
The ability to knock down shots. So, I mean, I think that's a good balance of everything. I think that you bring up a good point when it comes to evaluation. You've got to have a feel for the next level in terms of, with the responsibility of our evaluation and our connectivity, you've got to be able to communicate the trends that are going on in practices, going to these games. I met with some staffs on the West Coast. I went up to Oregon State, Arizona, and then went to UConn, Oregon. There was a game in between that got canceled because Arizona State couldn't travel yet, but it was good visiting with those staffs, understanding what they're going through in terms of scheduling, rescheduling, injuries, COVID, different stuff, and then getting into things such as changing recruiting calendar, recruiting philosophy, and things of that nature. It helps us spread from a direct source expectations and things that those staffs have, and then just helping connect all the way from like a middle school event all the way to when it's your translating opportunity in college. I just think it's like a continuing education thing for us. Absolutely. We can be professionals,
1000%.
and we can build up the hours to be experts in the industry, but it's always a continuing education. So getting to those games, building more than just a phone call text relationship, putting eyes and a feel on the college level just helps us translate and help again in player development and any advisement, because we take it seriously. It's not just about like planting our resume flags or whatever.
Absolutely.
So
going to see Iowa, Minnesota tonight.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, I'm thinking in segments. And after seeing those college games that we mentioned tonight, we're going to be in the house at Minnesota for Iowa coming in. So we see, a couple hot teams, a couple teams that'll battle. Big Ten has been getting a lot of support if people are paying attention to the networks. I was talking to a mom of a player in the 24 class today, talking about the support they've seen in a couple Big Ten visits that they've made. So these, expect these places to have some fans and some support, which hats off to them that they go out in this weather, because I'll be honest with you, I haven't spent a lot of time outside today, and that's strategically intentional. So speaking about why we're in Minnesota, we've got a girls basketball invitational, which is being put on by ESPN and hosted at Hopkins. You've got Hopkins versus Sidwell, and you've got Grandview versus DeSoto, programs that we're very familiar with, all of which we've seen live this year except for Hopkins. Different states have different rules. Hopkins is unable to do a lot of the traveling to these big events, so they brought this one here just as a way to make it a little bit more conducive to pull off. And we've got the number 1, number 2, and number 3 teams in the country in terms of our ESPN top 25 poll, and then Grandview, who has college-bound players, and the number 1 player in the country in the 22 class, and Lauren Betts' younger sister, and Sienna, who's a freshman, and then Mariah Hudgens, who's an absolute steal in my opinion for Santa Clara, who's really done a great job with, speaking of development over time, and taking a look at what she wanted to get done. She's an example. I told her after she got game Dallas, I would use her as an example for a lot of players because it's extremely relatable. Grandview took some lumps early. Lauren missed the first couple weeks, and then she got back. They had a decent showing at TOC. They got a good win against La Jolla Country Day, and then ran into some things and had close games, but didn't pull off those wins. And they're regrouping. They've got some young guards, and that is, they've struggled at times, but let's not discount the fact that, with that huge front line, they're hard to score against. So we can expect anything. I think let's talk about maybe that game first.
Yeah.
Because I would argue, Sidwell Hopkins is maybe the headliner in first day.
For sure.
But you've got DeSoto, who's about defense,
Yep.
and they've slowed things down in terms of maybe pressing all the time. So they've relied on the half court a little bit, and to their credit, have improved their offensive execution and patience in the half court. Playing against the team who probably wants to get you in the half court defensively, and so it's not contrasting styles, but it may be contrasting interests.
Yeah.
So Jay, you know DeSoto really well.
Yeah.
What are some key elements you think with DeSoto going into this game?
Yeah, if I think they're gonna, they play this big zone, and when not necessarily all 3 are on the floor. All 3 of their bigs, they have 3, 6, 4 above. At least 2 of them will be on the floor. At times, all 3. And so for Grandview, it's going to become about making shots, getting the ball to Sienna in the middle of the zone, and her making good decisions, and then keeping DeSoto out of transition off of that, because Sienna, being young, she's a 25. There are times she'll get frustrated or try to make the super pass instead of the easy pass. DeSoto thrives on that.
Yeah. No, turnovers are huge. I mean, KP, as we proved Sunday at TOC, you are a shooter. Shout out Ed Dennis. And shot selection for Grandview is going to be important.
Absolutely.
So in terms of a team, like, you saw DeSoto in DC, in terms of a team that gets out, talk to us about the importance of shot selection against such a quality defensive and transition team like DeSoto.
Yeah, and I want to piggyback off what you said. It's gonna be all on the younger bets, because if Lauren gets it, it's pretty hard to stop her. I don't care if you do have 2 6'4", 6'5" kids. The younger bets is going to be the key to this game. She's going to have to probably make the shots at the free throw line and find her shooters on the wing to kind of open it up for Lauren to get some easy shots. It's going to be tough because DeSoto is so long and athletic, and not only that, she's going to have to fall back in transition too.
No doubt.
And I hope she doesn't get in foul trouble.
No doubt.
With that, because they're going to push it right at her.
Right.
No doubt.
Right. So I mean, I think consensus is we expect DeSoto to win.
For sure.
All right.
But I would say the underlying thing of this is Grandview is really battle tested.
True.
And so don't discount that one thing, and that they've been in a lot of big games.
Sure. And then proven to beat a team with size, with quality opponent in La Jolla Country Day in the opening of TOC. So they know how to get it done.
Yeah.
But DeSoto has had a pretty brutal schedule as well. So not a toss-up by any stretch, but if we're just communicating. If we're forced to pick one, that's I think our consensus.
For sure.
All right, so let's go to Sidwell Hopkins. A little bit more of what I would call toss-up or hard to really nail down, because Hopkins hasn't necessarily had that test yet. Sidwell got DeSoto. Sidwell hosted the Capital Invitational. PVI is a quality game that they won the other day. Watching Hopkins just in their games that have been streamed, we know that their roster is talented with the Maya Najis and Maya Battles. Nunu Agara. We're talking 2 loaded rosters.
Yep.
We know that they press. We know that they guard.
Mm-hmm.
We know that Sidwell can guard. We know that they can pick it up. We know that after their starting 5, it's not that there's not depth, but it's really hard to keep the consistency of the quality.
Sure.
And that's not a knock. It's just that's how good their starting 5 is, right?
Sure.
They're both moderately dependent on on what can come off the bench. This one's a little bit harder to call. I mean, I think Sidwell, you got to give a little bit of the edge because of travel and opponents so far. But Hopkins has been waiting for this opportunity.
Absolutely.
Sure.
And and then let's talk about the home court advantage. Yeah. I imagine the place is going to be packed full of Hopkins fans.
For sure.
Olivia McGill is ready for that matchup with Leah Harmon. Maya Naji's ready for that matchup with Jaden Donovan. Woodson is ready for that matchup with Dudley. I mean, across the board, we've got some intriguing individual matchups, and we've watched Sidwell, who got in foul trouble against DeSoto, be able to change some things up. So I think that the key is going to be rebounding and watch the turnover numbers because, again, traveling, you got to get used to it. I mean, you got to get used to that raucous crowd if you're Sidwell. I just think ultimately this game's won on the glass because they both have playmakers. X factor, Kiki Rice. That's my thoughts going in.
My secondary X factor is Jaden Donovan foul trouble. One thing they've been able to navigate all year is Jaden Donovan at times getting in foul trouble, particularly the DeSoto games, what I'm referring to. She's got to be on the floor, I think, in this one because of the depth. And so I need, if I'm Hopkins, if I'm Tamika Dudley, I need 28 minutes minimum out of you of the 32, not 20 minutes because I'm having to move you in and off.
Right.
So I think that's huge. I agree with you on turnovers and rebounding, which is always huge. And this is where Kiki Rice, to your point, becomes the X factor. And what we saw in the first DeSoto game is she took over when Jaden Donovan got in foul trouble, and they got great minutes out of Dudley, obviously, great minutes from others, but she took over the game. And so, what do you do with Kiki? Definitely, I agree with you on that.
Yeah.
My wild card is probably Leah Harmon. She's got to make shots.
She's
got to make shots.
Got to make some threes.
She has to make shots, and she has to play well on the defensive end. She has to play really, really well on the defensive end because I think size-wise, Hopkins has an advantage. So they're going to have to speed Hopkins up a little bit and she's going to be the key to that.
Which Hopkins is good in transition. So it's another one of those. It's our style. But how will we decide in the moment if that's where the game plan needs to take us? And there is no hiding a defender. There is no hiding an offensive player in this game. And I will say in that DeSoto matchup, when Donovan got in foul trouble, they did a great job of gang rebounding. Everybody went to the glass. Kendall Dudley stepped up huge.
In particular.
They've had different people step up at different times. So it's going to be interesting. But again, Hopkins is no stranger to winning. They're competitive. But I think you're right. I mean, Sidwell's going to have to make some threes.
I think this weather's going to affect some of these kids too.
Get to the game 2 hours early so you can thaw out. I mean, I know we sound like a bunch of punks, but it's cold here.
It's bad here, man.
So, no, I think that's great. I mean, hard to pick it because of the Kiki Rice factor. Jay, if this were an over/under, I mean, we're talking single digits. But I think I lean towards Sidwell. But I think that game's going to be really good, and I encourage everybody to watch it. And then the final will be a toss. But I'd hate to talk final. I mean, I'd love to see a Sidwell DeSoto rematch, but if it doesn't happen, I want to see Hopkins DeSoto, Grandview. I mean, whoever wins this is the winning matters part. You got a 14 bracket. Whoever wins to get to the final, you deserve. You won a game you deserve. You deserve the final. I'm excited to see all of them. I don't want to discount anybody, and I don't want to talk about a hypothetical final. I just think we can talk about the matchup as they are, and if we've got to revisit this with the final stuff, we'll do that. But great for girls basketball. There's going to be more of this. This is something we've all been working for a long time. So, obviously love the fact that ESPN is putting this on the networks and the group producing it is going to be good. The SCNext, you've been seeing more content. And this is kind of a culmination of the things that we work through. You got, I think, the statistic was 13 ranked players in this.
Yeah.
3 ranked teams. Grandview started in the 25. I think under normal circumstances with Lauren, you know, if she'd have been with the team the whole time, they had an argument to be in it still. But, you know, we'll let that play out. And, you know, the fact is we're tossing it up and it gets us out on the floor, which is what we want. It's why the matchups matter. It's why these opportunities matter. It's why we want to get different companies and eyes on this stuff, because then we can make it happen because of the connectivity and the platforms and things that we have. So, you know, short and sweet, want to get this out before the event. We're excited. We're going to go to the game tonight. We'll maybe, you know, revisit the final before Saturday and get something out. But, you know, glad to be here with our guys.
Oh, yeah.
You know, part of our team. And then we're going to go layer up and try to find lunch. So appreciate everybody tuning in. Short and sweet from the baseline with Premier Basketball, KP, continuous performance, winter series, et cetera, et cetera.
Everything. Let's keep going.
So, yeah,
let's keep growing the game, guys.
Keep growing the game.
Yeah.
Got good people doing it, and we're excited. So we'll talk to everybody soon. Appreciate everybody.